Welcome to the October meeting of the Commission on Aging. Thanks to everybody for coming. Looks like we have a very solid quorum. So long story short is our first thing on the agenda is the discussion of the September minutes. Does anybody have any questions, changes? Peter?
I have a number of them, Joe, and I've given you and the recording secretary a copy, but let me just highlight the changes. In talking about John Larson last time, I said he was one of Connecticut's 5 representatives to Congress, and the minutes say Darien, so it's the state. Also, a bit of clarity about Kelly Loeffler's meeting. It was an orientation for her, and she is the new State Outreach Community Director. And Elizabeth Maricola and her staff at the library were also included. When I talked about the Darien Library, I made a specific note that they're scheduling some public focus groups as part of their looking at their future. And then on the Aging Connecticut Summit, which is October the 30th, the note said that I would be on the housing panel. I'm not on the housing panel, thank goodness. Our David Genovese, who's certainly much more competent than I am on that. And then in the longer paragraph about the New York Times article, just adding the word safe to city streets, safe streets. And then on the annual meeting, I believe Chris mentioned that it was at the Darien Library, so that should be added. And that was it. So those are the changes.
Thank you. Any other changes to the September minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as modified by Peter? Motion, please. Hearing, thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor? I appreciate that.
I have to abstain, I was not here.
Fair enough, and one abstention. Two abstentions, okay, thank you, awesome. Next is the Mather Center report. Beth?
Okay, and I want to apologize for not being here last month, but similar situation, down staff. But today I got myself up here, even though we're down staff.
Thank you.
Just wanted to let you know, we've been the October, if everybody's been following along, really devoted the month to dementia care, to a healthy brain, everything related to cognitive issues. And we were going to have, we partnered with At Home, and we had our Wednesday caregiver meeting about understanding dementia last Wednesday. Over 30 people attended, which was really very nice, and we would have had, I think, as many tonight. But the speaker got COVID, and it was last minute. This was last night. So though they tried to rally to get somebody else to come, we're looking at November 16th, but I haven't gotten a confirmation yet. So we will have it again. It was going to be all about financial issues right when somebody is diagnosed. And the Connecticut Alzheimer's Association, with the National, has put together a booklet. So they were going to go over the workbook with folks, and it's a brand new endeavor for them. So it would have been nice for us. We would have been the kickoff group of people that they started off with, but a month later isn't going to be too bad either. Our whole lobby is purple. We do, instead of the walking events, which you've all probably seen throughout different towns, they just had the big one at Cap Pasture. We do the event that we turn the lobby purple, and we have a raffle, and all the money goes to our chapter. The reason why we do it specifically to the Connecticut chapter is for the fact that we get our speakers from there, all of our pamphlets and educational material comes from them as well. And because I am a support group leader that is associated with them, they do a lot for us. They do a lot for the community. So they get something from us as well. And it's a lot of fun for everybody because everything's wrapped in purple, as well as the lobby. And then there's a memory garden that people are putting names of folks on that either their loved ones are taking care of now or people that have passed as a little memorial.
What is the significance of the color purple?
I do not know why the origin, it'd be good for me to look it up for you, but it started with purple many eons ago. Okay. I'm wearing purple because I wore it purple that night, the other Wednesday as well. I know that domestic violence has copped it now too, and I don't know whether that's related to Bruce, but purple has been the color that they've had since their origin. We also, this time during the day at 12:30, have had speakers in very different geriatric psychiatrists, we've had speech therapists, we've had APRN nurses in, all who have touched upon this topic in very different ways. And always with the idea of keeping people healthy, having quality of life, and also the very first time have we ever had at an event early stage diagnosed people, which is very moving and actually wonderful, because when I'm an old chicken in the game now, it was very stigmatized as almost a mental illness, and now it's understood as an organic physical illness. So to see people newly diagnosed coming out looking for information is really heartwarming and really changes the stride in the language. We had Connecticut Age Well, which is basically focusing on people with dementia and keeping people within the community and seen as very viable and trying to teach the community how to interact with folks that have limitations. They did a survey, but they did it very late. They only gave us 20 each. We filled out the 20 and sent them in. And this was all about ageism. The whole survey is basically, how do you want to be seen? How would you like to be seen as you get older? How would you like to be seen if you were to get a disability that was going to be a chronic disability for the rest of your life? So we did pass them out to people that we knew would give them right back to us. So we're going to see a little bit more, I think, in the media in our state about positive aging, about resilience in aging, about all more that we can offer too. So I think that's really important, and that's why I wanted to be part of it, even though they gave us 3 days to do it. Also coming up is our wonderful Halloween event. We're not done with October. There's a couple more dementia events that are at 12:30 for folks if they want to still come. And the November newsletter is hot off the press. Just came out today, packed. I have to give props to Caitlin Stote. Caitlin has everything that I give her to do, and every program I ask her to research ends up in the next newsletter. So we're overwhelmed with activities and programs and scheduled events, which is really good, because what we're also seeing is more and more people are coming into the center just for those one-offs. So we're meeting people actually who are new to Darien, that have come into either the new condos that are downtown, or from the Royal. Actually, a couple people from even Selleck Woods came in that were able-bodied people that are coming in for programming as well. So that's really a good thing. And our membership of Darien residents has increased since we reopened back up again. And it's almost, in a sense, having more programming is remessaging what we do. We're from the fun factor for sure, but the quality of life issues and the education issues are so important. And we're getting reached out to by other healthcare professionals that want to come in, because once they come into the center and they see how beautiful the center is, and they also see how bright the audience is. It makes a big difference that they know that academically what they're going to share is something that's really going to improve and speak to people's quality of life. So the Hospital for Special Surgery is sending us folks now. Nuvance from Norwalk is calling us. So that's really, really important to us. And of course our university, Sacred Heart, Deerfield University too, are sending us speakers too. And the academics is also going to be for fun. We have for St. Patrick's Day, I know this is a lead up, fine, but I live in the future, I don't live in the present. We actually have a professor of Irish Studies who's going to come in and do a series, and he sounds like a leprechaun. He is so funny. It's going to be so great. But he reached out to us because he wanted to do this for a population that was older that would really enjoy the historical stuff he's going to bring in. So it's not only health and wellness; it's academic, and I think because we have a teacher now in the program specialist position, the academic thing is going to be speaking for her, because that's kind of like where her passion comes from too. So if you haven't picked up a newsletter and you haven't gone online and looked at how packed it is now, please do. There's just something for everybody at this particular point.
Awesome. Questions for Beth? Peter?
I'd like to put a footnote on what Beth is saying about population and aging. I saw some statistics just this week. There's some new demographic statistics, and a couple of them really blew me away. In this country now, there are 89,739 people 100 years of age or older. Even more astounding to me was there are 10,946 people in this country that are 105 years of age or older. And I thought, well, what about Connecticut? Well, believe it or not, of those 105 and older, we have 131 people in our state that are 105 and or older. Then maybe some of them are showing up at the Matters Center. But I thought those numbers, to me, those numbers were really interesting and revealing.
And to that point, that I always say we do 4 decades, like now we're gonna go into the 5th decade, because we're serving, and really 50 to 55 age is really the caregiver stuff, and more than people that are actually coming in to participate in other kinds of programming. But the folks that are older, generally speaking, are gonna be people that really stay into the center for almost like the whole day to have an experience, or they might have cognitive issues which allow them to come into the center, but they need to come into the center with some sort of assistance, because none of our senior centers has staffs that can do one-to-one. But if somebody is intellectually capable of being there, they should be there. They should be getting the stimulation that way. And that also speaks to us doing more virtually. And we're looking at that, the Darien Foundation has contacted us too, so that maybe there might be more of our program that we're able to hybrid, that as the speaker is there, we're filming them, and people can be on the program if they're homebound, but they still can be getting that stimulation. So it's creating for the senior centers especially, we've got to grow even bigger and diversify even more, and look at like what the Connecticut Age Well is trying to do, because there's a significant portion of those folks that will have at least mild cognitive impairment. They may not move into a progressive, regressive Alzheimer's disease or another type of dementia, but mild cognitive impairment is something that people need support to be wherever they are, to have the richest experience as well. So, yeah, so we've got our work cut out for us. It's an exciting time, because we want those people to age with muscle all the way around, so.
It's just an amazing statistic when you think about the fact that 131 people in Connecticut
Right.
were alive at the end of World War I. That is crazy, okay? Not to mention that they were adults during World War II.
Right.
Okay, I mean, so that just tells you what, you're really talking about, which is, think about all of us hitting 100, 105. I mean, then the kind of planning we need to do for that.
Exactly.
Because that's going to really change things at some level. We've, as you mentioned, 4 decades to 5, right? That, continuing to care for people and making their lives valuable and important and satisfying to them, right? It's good stuff.
And making sure that they have a group. They have a group that they can socialize with. They have a group has their frame of reference. Because remember, the 105-year-old, their kid's 70.
Sure.
We don't have much in common anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that. So even when you program, we're starting to think about that as well, even when we do musical programming. Because if we have a lot of Vietnam era people, we're now into the Beatles,
Sure.
So you have to evolve what you're doing to relate to a broader span of people. So.
Yeah, there's a classic internet meme that's gone around among the military history sites, which is that old man who's at the grocery store did more important stuff than you'll ever do. When they show his picture of him at Vietnam, right? And stuff that, that's just, you have to think about that, right? To the extent that, to honor our seniors and what they've been through and what they've done.
We surely bring our history with us.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great. Any other questions for Beth? Hearing none, thank you. Ally and her colleague could not be here with us today, so we'll get the Human Services report in November for both October and November, okay? Old business, I'm going to first go to Chris. Chris, what's going on at Home in Darien?
Sure. Just a couple quick things. At Home in Darien, very fortunate. We've got a really tremendous board. And people who are committed on this commission. We've got Jim Metzger, Sue Oki, and Marcia Cleary. I'm happy to announce that we've added 2 additional board members who are just starting with us for the balance of this year and then fully starting officially next year. But Debbie Parnan and Catherine Mahopoulos. So we're very excited to bring them on board, and different levels of expertise that are really going to continue to complement the amazing board that commits to so many different things beyond just at home in Darien. The one thing I do want to mention, and I think I mentioned this last meeting, but we have really finalized the logistics of a first ever business networking event that we're going to be having at Norotan Yacht Club. And that is purely to introduce ourselves to the business community. We haven't had real relationships with a lot, our focus has been on our members and our donors, but we want to reach out and show who we are to the business community and how can we help them. It's not self-serving in terms of how can they help us, but really how can we help them. And we do have a number of businesses that do some things for us already, which we greatly appreciate. And then the last thing I'll mention, I was really fortunate to have been interviewed by Jim Cameron about 2 weeks ago for TV 79 as part of his Inside Town Hall. So while we're not part of the town, I guess we're technically inside of Town Hall and work really closely with Beth and Human Services. And I gave some good plugs to you guys, and rightly so. For Jim's a professional, and I really appreciate that. He worked with a really rough pile of clay and maybe shaped it a little bit with me, but I had really the true pleasure of talking about our organization a little bit. So that was fun. And our annual meeting, I think I mentioned last week, I'll mention it the next 2 meetings, but our annual meeting, which is set for December 6th, as Peter mentioned, at the Darien Library.
Awesome.
Thank you, Joe.
Sure. Any questions for Chris? Peter?
Chris, I can't believe you didn't mention at yesterday's event in the library.
Yeah, it came
I
together.
wish you would talk about it.
Yeah, sure, I'm sorry about that. It came together, an organization reached out to me that was focused on in-home health services. And they pulled together an aging in place panel at the library. And it included At Home in Darien, it included a local doctor who was focused on concierge service, which I found very interesting. I mean, I'm aware of it, but we had about 50 people in the audience, which was very, I dropped the ball a little bit. I didn't communicate enough to the board and some others, but it was very interesting being a part of that. And we also had a representative from Selleck Woods, and then Sterling Care, which is the organization who kind of pulled it together. Kind of an open dialogue. We each had about 10 minutes to talk about kind of our organization and took that opportunity to give everybody a quick update. And there's some very, very good questions. One of the questions, which I will discuss in the board meeting, is we had somebody ask, they were a long-term Darien resident. They lived, and I've had this question asked of us before. They were in town for 20, 30, 40 years, and they've now moved out of town. Can they still get our services? And it's a real challenge for a couple of reasons, largely because we're funded through private donorship in town. But it's also kind of fleet utilization issue for us in terms of keeping, our drivers are concentrated in Darien, Norwalk, and then in Stanford. So there's some inherent challenges there. But Peter, I'd welcome any feedback you had on that session.
Well, it was a very good session, it really was. And to me, the most fascinating presenter was the guy from Sterling Care.
Besides me.
Oh, yeah, next to Chris, I'm sorry. Because of who he is. And Joe, he is the chairman of the Commission on Aging in Greenwich.
Yeah.
I don't even, what's his name, Chris?
David Katz.
Was that?
Katz. David Katz?
No. It was Kevin, right? No.
Or Stephen
I
Katz.
messed up his name in first.
His last
It's
name.
Stephen. It's
Stephen Katz.
Stephen Katz, yeah.
And one of the fascinating things was, and their Commission on Aging, as you know, is a different structure, and they have oversight as well on their senior center.
As we used to.
And he went into raves about Beth's work and
Nice.
the Darien Mather Center, and how different its focus is and how more inclusive its focus is. And its focus is not on the older people aging, it's much more on being older adults in the community. I thought, what an endorsement. I wish,
Yeah.
again, we can't look at schedules and say everything's got to fit together. So some of these events have to happen, I guess, concurrently at times. But I thought it was an excellent, it really was an excellent opening event. And it sent a message, I think, to the Darien Library as well, that again, more programming, active program for older adults makes a lot of sense and has an audience.
I said it'd be quick, but you brought up a couple of things there. I had two conversations after the session. One woman came to me, and she lives in Reading, and I used to live in Reading, and I didn't know her, but she heads up the Commission on Aging in Reading. And she was there kind of to learn, listen, and asked, because she's also very focused on serving the community through transportation, through services that At Home in Darien offers. So she asked me to go up to Reading, if I was willing to go up to Reading, to talk to them about how we approach it. So I'm already seeing in my short time, and certainly, people who've lived here, how Darien and the Mather Center are being held to really the gold standard by these other towns, and that's very rewarding. And to your point also, the woman from the library had come up, and I've talked to Kira about that. But again, more programming that would integrate At Home in Darien and some of our members and the library and some of the programs that we have. So you see this interconnectivity with the organizations, which is really great.
All of this says to me, we should all keep our eyes open for people you hear during some of these panel presentations or things of that nature who would be great presenters here. What information do they have that would be helpful to our commission? So when you see a superstar out there involving senior care, senior services, whatever, I'd love to hear about her or him so that I'm in a position where I can reach out and say, hey, are you available for the X meeting? Because it would be very cool to get other, for example, we've not done a lot or hardly anything involving private assisted care, things of that nature. So if there's a superstar out there locally where it wouldn't be an advertising pitch, okay, which is always a challenge, okay, but relating to that question of, the transition between, for those who decide to move to those kinds of places, the kinds of things they see. I see it with my clients. And so at the end of the day, so whatever the source is, if you find somebody who's like that and you say they'd be amazing, let me know.
Let's talk. I mean, Peter's right. Stephen would be, I think, potentially, and I'll talk further with Beth on that.
Okay. Yeah, whoever you want. Okay, well, my point is circling back to me and we'll think about it. Good. On that topic, part of other old business is the fact that I did reach out to Steve Olvaney on the question of walkability, okay? And in so many words, Steve said, it's not moving right now, he'll be back to me, okay? And he did not say why. So I then had to read between the lines, think about what's going on in this town and try to figure out why he's not getting as much traction as he might like, and it's got to be Ziegler. In other words, it seems to be sucking up all the oxygen in the room as far as, everybody seems to be focused on what are we going to do with this park, etc. Which then brought me to the next thought, which was, okay, what are we doing with that particular project? In other words, how are we representing seniors for what seniors might like at that park? Fair enough? So one of the things, I'm not for today, since it's not old business anymore, it moves into new business, I want to put that on the agenda for the November meeting. So give that some thought as to what you think seniors would like to see, whether you think we need a subcommittee, if at all, to go to some of the public meetings or things of that nature, to keep us posted, to advocate as necessary. In other words, there are obviously things that seniors would like. Examples. Paved paths would be one thing you'd like to have, which would be so that seniors, not only who can walk, but who are in wheelchairs, will be able to enjoy the park. So, that's the kind of thing I think we may refocus on while I wait for Steve to come back to me. On the question of walking on the post road is, okay, if we can't get the deal going with walking on the Post Road. Can we get the deal going with walking and wheeling in the new park whenever that happens? So give that some thought as far as that's concerned. Back to old business. Peter, what you got for AARP and the state?
Okay, for AARP, I'll come back to what I noted in the minutes. Kelly Loeffler came, she met with us, she spent pretty much the whole part of the day at Human Resources with Chris, at the senior center. She had lunch there, and at the Darien Library, and she walked away with, I think, a much better understanding of our needs and programs and how we serve as a model to other of our 169 communities. And I've talked to her about other things since then, and it's really good. So again, thank you all for making the investment of time to do that. The AARP is not doing tax aid next year at the Darien Library, but the tax aid program will continue exactly as it was, but it's going to be a VITA services. They determined the tax aid program is geographical, so Southern Fairfield is got a bunch of outlets. They decided that AARP's requirements might be a bit too stringent, actually, for a number of legal reasons, perhaps. So VITA is going to be doing it. AARP is doing it, and AARP is doing it in sites in Stamford and Greenwich. So again, just to let you know, the full range of services are going to be available. Again, VITA, there won't be restrictions, I think, for the compared VITA to AARP, so it'll go forward. It just won't have the AARP brand.
What is VITA as far as I know it's an acronym for what?
It's a government program that goes back years. I'm not sure what the VITA...
Volunteers in...
Tax assistance.
There you go, volunteers and tax assistants. We'll go with that.
We may have made that up.
That works for me.
But they have the same guidelines. They use the same systems. Again, it's just, and I was disappointed. I really was, because again, I think AR's presence and the connection there.
Fair enough.
But it'll be physically at the library.
It will be physically in the library, and it'll be the same, probably the same dates, Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And again, information will be forthcoming. I don't know if they're going to be doing anything at the Mathis Center next year or not.
But not VITA. I mean, if AARP wants to, they can give me a call.
Okay.
Because our computer room is up to date. So if they needed it, we could do it.
Okay. One of the new programs, I'll be going up to Hartford in the next 2 weeks, is going to be training on Social Security programs, and we're going to be doing Social Security, essentially education and training programs around the state, really focused on not just Social Security, the big picture of Social Security for people 45 and older, actually, and talk about the complexities of it, planning for it, and what you need to do. And so we probably will bring some of that, some of those sessions down into this area. So that's a new AARP activity. The other thing, which I'm just going to wave at you, because I just got this the day before yesterday. AARP has done some really interesting research called Vital Choices. It's just coming out. It just sent me a fresh off the press copy. But what's unique about this, it's livable community issues, and it's specific to Connecticut. So they've taken and looked at all of the data, and they're breaking it down by states. And what are they talking about? Information about healthcare, retirement, fraud, caregiving, prescription drugs, independent living issues, housing, and relocation. So I think, again, there's going to be a lot of good information coming out that we will be able to share and that they'll be able to use. We talked about the Darien Library yesterday and that event. Again, a reminder, November the 1st is the first of the Darien Library's focus groups. And again, I would encourage any of us to do that. I would love to see us put more older adults into their programs even as they look forward. So again, even to our viewers, if you want to get interested, I don't think they're going to pay you like you do in focus group sessions, but at least it will benefit the community. State Long-Term Advisory Council. I listened in on the meeting, which was on September the 28th, and there were a couple important things I thought that came out of that. One of which, Joe, it was the last item actually, so I'll talk about this first. But there was a talk about a lack of pro bono lawyers for seniors. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, I mean, that lack of pro bono lawyers for everybody. It's not just seniors. I mean, it's a huge issue to the fact that we don't have enough lawyers willing to volunteer time for difficult cases, as you can imagine, okay? Conservatorships, commitments, just are really fact-intensive, difficult cases, okay? So to take those on, either as the attorney for a senior, right, to defend against it, and it causes all kinds of, you can imagine the ethical issues. Kid says, parent leaves the oven on, I'm afraid the house is gonna burn down. Parent says, I'm a veteran, I know what I'm doing, you defend me. That was my case in New Canaan back in the day, okay? And so ultimately I lost that case because the kid was able to convince the probate judge, Judge Burke at the time, that in fact the guy needed to be conserved. But I did that on a pro bono basis. I still take on a lot of pro bono cases. But it is a huge problem among the legal bar in that, especially as the economy goes and lawyers are being crunched a little bit more, as all of us are, taking on more pro bono cases is a challenge.
Okay, well, with that, it was a plea that perhaps lawyers could somehow, through law schools or something like that, mount an effort to focus on this.
Absolutely.
And again, the point was, again, more and more people are living longer, their lives are getting more complex, and again, catching up with them.
And the flip side also is that some of this is very sophisticated stuff. Medicaid planning, for example, you don't want a general first-year lawyer as your lawyer trying to qualify you for Medicaid. You need an absolute specialist, and that makes it really challenging to figure out how do you serve those kinds of clients to get them qualified for Medicaid.
Okay, a few other things. The state will increase its rebates for Meals on Wheels, which I think is good news. Claire Coate, as you know, has been appointed the Senior Center Coordinator, and so she spoke. She said there were 35 senior centers so far that have been given the ARPA grant money. And that, again, they're starting to work on a 3-year plan a state plan for Connecticut, but that's like an ongoing. That's like, it reminds me of my corporate world where we always had 3- and 5-year plans that we wasted a lot of effort on. Marie Allen talked about the great increase in support for home care, and that in one month alone it was 4%. Aging Connecticut Summit, October the 30th, we have 400 registrations now. David Genovese is going to be one of the presenters. AARP is also starting an effort focused in Hartford on transportation and safety, and also they're starting a program that's going to look at grandparents raising grandchildren in their households. Because again, this is something we're seeing. Isn't it ironic? Because I mean, that's the world I grew up in. I mean, so but now it's new and it's hot where it used to be our way of life. And then housing instability was again a major discussion, where it took previously 4 to 6 months to find housing for someone coming out of a care institution. It's now taking up to a year, which again is a real challenge. So lots of challenging work ahead. One other thing is November, I think, is National Caregiver Month, isn't it, Beth? And so again, let's remember those numbers that we were talking about. And that's all I have, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Questions for Peter?
Just, Peter wants you to know, we arranged a meeting with our senior center directors with Claire and already gave her a lot of input in September. And we're the first group of senior center directors, you know, we call ourselves the Fairfield County Senior Center Directors, really, so we
She
gave her.
mentioned that. and
Did she?
Yes, and
Okay.
she was happy with that.
Yeah, we
very
gave her
happy.
a lot of feedback, so, yeah, we're not gonna let her not do her job. so.
Right, good.
Awesome. Great. Other old business? Any new business? Yes,
So
Beth?
I want to bring, because I informally started to talk to the folks that were here already, but we really need to get our volunteerism up in the senior center. I'm looking for sort of ideas of what you might want to recommend me to do. I was thinking that maybe I would have some sessions with Caitlin and myself, that people could come in and then just have informal conversation about what our needs are, that we know our needs are, and also to see if anyone from the community had other ideas for us as well. We need our information desk to be staffed with at least 2 folks on 2 different shifts. Now that we're back up to where we were before, and actually more people are coming into the center. We also want to be able to use a computer system that we have actually purchased. We're starting to get the information set up in that system so that when people check in, they'll be checking in with a UCP card. They'll be able to say what they're doing. The 7 events that are happening that day will be on the screen. So we definitely need someone there for that, to help people be able to utilize that system until it's utilized and understood. And also to have somebody else on the desk for the purposes of just giving information about what's going on in the center. We call it a welcome desk more than an information desk anyway. It's pivotal for us to have regular folks on. And we're seeing volunteerism, consistent volunteerism being a little bit more of a struggle. Unlike, some of the other senior centers, we know what their staffing is, whereas, Westport's always held up, but they have 6 full-time staff. Then they have a full-time staff member at their information welcome desk. We're not gonna probably cultivate that at this point because our town is very committed to part-time people. But we've done really well with the volunteers we've utilized over the 15 years practically that I've been here. So I'd like to see that happen again. But it's the reach out. It's the reach out to get people to know about it, and also to see that there could be a regular commitment. That there's a flexibility with being a volunteer, because you're not a paid employee. You don't have to show up always on a regular, but it would be nice to have us knowing that there's a consistent schedule, that we have backup people for other folks. And as we get more even technologically into the weeds of using technology, we need more folks to help us with that as well. Because even statistics have to be put into the computer. And we have a receptionist billing assistant who's there 19 and a half hours. So all the extra stuff that doesn't get done is getting done by myself and Caitlin, which I'm already here at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Maybe the next person won't be willing to do that. So we need the support and help of other folks. So it's a wonderful environment to be in. The center's not only beautiful, the staff that there is great, but we just need to see how we can reach out, to cultivate getting people that regularly want to consistently volunteer. It's the lunch program, even the wood shop, thank God, we're growing the wood shop volunteers again, so that we're hoping eventually that's going to be a 5-day-a-week program. Once again, thanks to Tom, but more and more folks are coming. So, a lot of the stuff is word of mouth as well. But I just need, if anybody has ideas about what I can do more formally in order to invite people in so that we can just give information sessions.
So I'm thinking of, where would you find volunteers in town who are already at some level semi-committed to whatever institution they're already at, but have extra time? So my thought would be, and I'm glad to make that happen at the First Congregational Church in Darien, is reaching out to local places of worship. In other words, that at the end of the day, there are wonderful people at St. John's in Darien, there are wonderful people, First Congregational, Roten Presbyterian, St. Luke's. all those places have people in the pews who may have additional time on their hands, who may or may not be watching TV 79, and be aware of that. So if you're interested in doing 5 to 10 minutes during a service, just to say, hey, I'm Beth Paris, I'm the, I could certainly make that happen at First Congregational. And I think that if others have that access to other, places of worship, synagogues in Stamford as well. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the reality. Is that's where you're going to find those people, I think, who are going to have the time. And obviously, senior men, other civil institutions, right, where a presentation of that nature may do it. I think that one of the things I would say is, if I had the time, I'd want to know a time commitment. In other words, I'd want to know what I was signing up for. In other words, I sure as heck wouldn't sign up 5 days a week to run the welcome desk, right? So as a result, what's my time commitment? Is it 5 hours? Is it 10 hours? What am I committing to? And I think that obviously many hands make light the work, so we need less time commitments if we get more people. But I think that would be one of the things I'd want to say to people so they know what they're getting into, because I think that's the hardest thing for anybody volunteering. What am I signing up for? And I don't want to let this group down by not being able to satisfy that commitment. So if other people have thoughts beyond mine on how Beth can find these volunteers, love to hear them. Peter?
Two things come to mind, okay? Another, or three maybe. For example, does At Home in Darien, do those 4,000 people know that there's a need there? And again, a great package would be At Home in Darien will pick you up. I mean, they do that. I know people go to Stanford Hospital and Norwalk Hospital as volunteers. Why not a pickup volunteer program right in town? I'm not sure, Chris, for example, at all.
There is one already.
I didn't know that that volunteers are shorthanded. I'm not sure I could help. So that's suggestion number one. Suggestion number two is take a look at like Norwalk Community College. I know grammar school, high school, it's out because of the time commitment and other issues. But, I mean, there's programs there for young people studying gerontology or food service or whatever to maybe come and do some volunteer work. And you have Norwalk Community College, you have the Stanford campus of Sacred Heart, you have Fairfield. And the last thing is, maybe we should take a look at what our full-time permanent staff level is vis-a-vis other senior centers, and maybe our town needs to make more of a commitment to staffing with paid employees, given everything that we've been doing and everything that Beth and her team is doing, and what more is already needs to be done. So I think that's an important, that's going to be difficult, but I think it's important. Again, I think it's a job for our commission.
Yeah, I mean,
Those are my thoughts.
Beth, when you're ready to have us advocate for another paid position or two, let us know how we can help push the powers that be during budget season to give us another person or two. That is certainly a great idea from Peter, I agree. Just let us know. Obviously, we don't want to step on your toes. You figure that out. Tell us what we want to do. But yeah, we're in your corner, so just let us know.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on that issue?
Ideas.
Okay.
And I'm already going to set a meeting with Chris, too.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Any other new business? Yes, sir.
I've been approached by a few seniors about trying to have the traffic bumps removed right outside the senior center.
Those I can speak right to.
Right.
They have to stay up until, it's a date in November, they'll be gone. They're there because of people almost knocking us over and the kids during camp. That's why they're there. They get picked up by mid-November because of the snow plows. So they're going to be gone soon. The pitch I've been making is that they need to be shorter on each end, so folks have a pathway to walk.
Right.
And this, I will petition again, or I'm gonna get something that I can come on the weekend and cut them myself. I've been asking for 3 years, but they're there because generally speaking, especially during the summer, people speed. We've had people almost hit by cars. I've walked people out that are walking on walkers, and I've almost been knocked over too. So that's what they're there for, and especially in the summer when all the kids are on the fields, extremely dangerous. But they will be coming up in November, but to your point, they need to be made smaller
Yes.
on each side, and I'll do that again, I'll ask again.
Okay,
Or I'll figure out a way to do it,
thank you.
because
Sounds
it is,
good. No, you
they're-
could all-
it's horrible.
You
It's
could
horrible.
also put the commissions of aging weight behind it if we agree that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
let us,
Yeah.
let me know who to contact if
We
that's, you
just,
know.
we need it to be wide enough
Sure.
for someone with a walker or wheelchair on either side to walk
Right.
through. So people don't walk over the, everybody tow trips.
Right.
Right.
I watch people, sometimes I go running out during right before lunch, because I see people come in and go, pick up your feet, you know, it's like.
Okay, so we've got, so they're not gonna remove them by November. November is when their next move removed,
They
but they're
should
gonna
be
put them
removed, yeah.
back.
They will be
In
put
May,
back, they will be
right?
put back in May,
Okay,
yeah.
so we need to figure out who, I know you've been trying for 3 years, who have you been working with?
Well, basically, I think it has to go through the Director of Public Works.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and what they need to do is during this wonderful time, cut them, correct. Cut them to size so that we can get walkers through. Right, okay. I'm on it.
All right.
And we'll see if I can have any success, so we'll see, but nevertheless, that's a good
Maybe
point.
the woodworking shop can
The
cut.
woodworking shop, let's bring them to the woodworking shop, cut them down, et cetera.
Well, I was thinking of getting the sawzall and going
Yeah,
out there,
sure.
we could lift the end
Sure,
of
we
it
can do
up,
that.
yeah.
I'll take the fifth on whether I'm sure on public television, the Director of Public Works would be saying, look at Pankowski agreeing to that. No, I will contact and say, you know, this really needs to happen, because it is dangerous for our seniors, especially on walkers who are trying to get to the center, and if they can't, if they have to go over a speed bump, that's not a cool situation.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay, good stuff, thank you.
okay.
Other new business? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn the October meeting? Thank you, Peter, second, thank you, all in favor? Aye, see you in November.